Hey, what's going on?
Hi Lisa, how are you? I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm very excited. I was really nervous about being late because I was like, let me not do the time difference wrong. I thought I was gonna get on here like an hour late or an hour early, but we're doing good. So
Perfect timing. You just rescued me from the awkward hello when it's just me before people that can come in, but there are people watching. I always feel so awkward because I don't know who to talk to, so I'm always like, hi guys.
try
So
to pretend
you
not to look at the beginning.
perfect timing. You just saved me from my awkward introduction, which is great. How are you
Awesome.
doing?
So I am very good. Also, I brought wine. I hope that's okay. I figured
Oh
it's
my
like
god,
a Friday evening.
of course, that's fine. I have no such drink. I wish I did. I'm very jealous. Please have your red wine. It's my favorite kind as well. You're inspiring me. I might grab a glass while you're speaking.
Oh, please do. It's basically happy hour. Why not?
Well, it's a Friday afternoon for you. You're not, so obviously you're not UK based. Like
So I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said, you're not UK based. Like I am.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm on the East Coast, so I guess 5 hours difference. I'm based in Philadelphia, so a little bit of a gap there. We have the ocean dividing us, but it's so nice to meet you. Also nice to hear your voice because we just been emailing each other.
I know yours too. I know it's I love I mean, I'm actually really bad with technology, but I love it at the same time because we can kind of sit here and chat, and it's like a different part of the day for you, you know. It's dark for me outside. It's so crazy, but also very cool and lovely to meet you too.
Awesome.
um
Awesome.
what was I going to say? So I have a few quick questions. My first question is it's very technical and really boring, so sorry everyone watching. Do you have a PowerPoint?
I do have a PowerPoint.
Oh, exciting. Well, then at some point, basically, obviously, I'm gonna transfer after we've had a little chat and when you kind of get going on your workshop, I'm gonna transfer the host skills to you, so you'll be able to use all the features like the share screen features.
Oh,
That was
awesome. As a warning, I'm not great with technology either, but I can definitely try to finesse something.
Well, as someone who is probably equally as bad, I managed to work it out pretty quickly, so it's not too hard. I had to when I first started doing these, I went on before to be like, oh, well, because I didn't want to be the embarrassing person who, shows their age and can't use Zoom, right? So I was like, yeah, okay, but I promise you, super easy. The buttons are all there. Everything is good.
Okay, perfect, perfect. I was afraid I was gonna share something I shouldn't, like it just
Yeah.
goes into my photo album or something.
So mental realness mag. How long have you been running your zine?
So it's been about a year and a half, almost 2 years. So I started in January of 2019. So it hasn't been, I also took like some spaces in between then because I had just graduated college when I started it. So I was like moving around. I moved like 4 times in the last 2 years. So like realistically, it's been 2 years, but maybe like the last more so like 7 or 8 months is when we've really been doing something.
How are you finding it?
Actually, it's pretty good. Like, it sounds, I don't know, cliche, but I really like it. It's really cool. Like, I think I just never really had been introduced to zines or like the ideas of them at all until I was like older. So I never even really knew it was possible to like express yourself in that way. I thought I'd have to like write a book or like do something like that. And I just don't have the attention span for things like that. So this is awesome, honestly.
Perfect. Me too. And I mean, what inspired you to start your zine? Because obviously it's for Black Femmes navigating mental health, which is great, I think, and really important. I actually read a really interesting book called by Anne Svetkovic. I'm gonna mess up how that name is like sounds, but it's spelled Svetkovic, and it's a really interesting book. I read it last year. I was writing a piece on mental health, really, and it's very interesting. She has a few chapters in the book about race and mental health, and especially like the mental health of Black women and how it's really overlooked and not as understood because of the kind of, well, I mean, because of the like racist system we live in, like the kind of, and the stereotypes that progress from that, even if people don't know, even if psychiatrists and people that are dealing with Black women in mental health, they can't, like, sometimes are even unaware of their prejudices and their biases, which leave, Black women really misunderstood when it comes to their mental health. And I was super interested in that. when I read about it, it was a really interesting book, and I found that chapter especially, I was very interested in it. And yeah, so when I found your zine, I was also very interested. So what inspired you to set it up?
Well, honestly, okay, so I'll give you the short answer, which is just like, I'm a Black femme that has like mental health issues that I have to deal with. Or issues sound so negative, but we're always going through something. But the long and short of it, I guess, would be it just feels like, so kind of akin to what you said. There aren't really a lot of resources specifically for, let's say, like Black femmes. Even if we talk about Black mental health, it's usually the whole community. It's beautiful and great, and I use those resources as well. But like, there are a lot of issues particular to being a Black woman, especially like in America. I'm sure the same worldwide, because obviously racism is global, but being a Black woman in America, it's like every day, even if you are neurotypical, you're going to be put through something that other racial, gender intersections aren't going to have to go through. And not even just Black women, but like non-binary people. Like, I can't speak to that, but obviously if I'm going through this as a cisgendered woman, I can only imagine going through this as like a non-binary person or a trans person. So I just figured it would be cool to kind of just have like a community to just talk about these things. That's how it started. Like, I'm not a mental health professional at all. I don't claim to be one. I don't want to be that guy. But I just wanted to, like, kind of just have a room where we could just like get together, talk, say, I've been feeling really depressed about X, Y, and Z. Because a lot of the things that make me upset as a Black femme person or as a Black woman are things I can't change. I can't change institutional racism. I can't change systemic racism. I can't change the fact that people don't like my hair where I wear it out, or the fact that if I wear it in the ways in which people want me to wear it, or like straighten it or something like that, it's gonna affect it. I can't change the way people are gonna look at me through the lens of not even sometimes being a Black woman, but colorism on top of that within the community. So I figured it would be cool to kind of just have, like, people understand something else and try to work from there. But yeah, that's basically it. The last thing I'll say, I guess, is just like, I didn't really also want to share space with cishet men. That was kind of where I drew the line. All love, we all go through everything, but at the same time, it was like a lot of times too, as a feminine identifying person, cishet men can be the source of a lot of trauma and a lot of like things that people have to overcome mentally. So I was just kind of like, maybe we should just have a space for us, for the girls, and for the femmes and thems.
I think, well, for the thems and thems, I love it. As I said, I think it's really interesting and really good, and I think that your zine is really important. And by noticing that there's, a need for something and creating that space yourself is really admirable, because a lot of people see the need for something or feel the lack of something, and don't actively act to change that, and by doing so, it's obviously much more work than kind of just ignoring it or feeling hurt. But it sorts it's a lot of work, but you then provide resources to other people in similar situation with you, and it means that people who kind of find your zine and felt the same way that you do and felt that there was a lack of resources will hopefully feel that there's less of that, and so although it is a lot of hard work to kind of create your space and to kind of be the person at the front of that who kind of, as I said, needs to put in that hard work at the beginning, you then create a lot of space for other people, which is great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm trying. I'm trying very hard.
No, honestly, as I said, no problem, and you're doing very well, so well done.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I am going to hand over to you the privileges. I'm making you the host. Dun dun dun. So you are now in control of the meeting. Exciting.
Okay.
And I am going to disappear and let you do your thing. I will be here though. So if you need any help, technical help or anything, just let me know. And I'll come back at the end to join you for questions and have a little chat again. But for now, goodbye and good luck. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, so I know people are still here, but it feels like I'm by myself, so just bear with me, guys. Let me share my screen. Okay. Yes, I think we are in business, guys. Woo, okay. Well, sorry, definitely click past the first page, but yeah, this is the Lazy Girl's Guide to Zines. Basically, I'm very lazy, to put it simply. And this was something that I was able to do and incorporate along with moving and working multiple jobs and stuff like that. So I figured I might have some tips and tricks and stuff that maybe people haven't said in the previous ones necessarily, but I'm definitely gonna hit some of the same bases. So initially, I didn't know I'd be asked about like the background, so that totally works out. Very happy to have already talked about it, but then again, just as a rundown. So started Mental Realness Mag in January 2019. I had just graduated from Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with a degree in African American Studies and a minor in English. So it intersects really well for this, even though people generally told me not to get those 2 degrees. So it was really cool to actually have something I could kind of channel my passions and interests into. So it's a zine/community for Black femmes to talk about their mental health. Like I said earlier, I didn't really see a whole bunch of places to do that. Not to say they don't exist, but I just wasn't really made aware of them. And a lot of times, if they were talking towards Black women specifically, it felt very like exclusionary. I didn't want to exclude like obviously like queer people, trans people, non-binary people. I feel like if anything, we would have a stronger community with everyone within it. And sometimes just for spaces for Black women, it gives me very heteronormative, very cisgendered. So try to avoid that. So I initially started it as a digital publication because I literally had no idea what I was doing whatsoever. I just had this idea in the back of my head for a couple of years. There's like a note in my phone that says Mental Realness Mag from like 2017. So I was like, okay, let me just start something, kind of just move from there. And I didn't know how to format digitally, or I didn't know how to like actually print yet. So I was just like, okay, let me just start, start small. It really was just an Instagram at first. But now we're up to 5 digital issues and 2 print issues. And also we're taking submissions for the 3rd print issue, which is the last one of the year. So if you want to submit, please, but I'll get to that later. So basically, I just wanted to give like an idea of how it started versus how it's going. I love a good Twitter meme. So how it started was this, literally my little icon there was from a meme. The 17 followers were my best friends and their Finstas. And I didn't think anybody else would really follow me. I thought I'd be really cool if I got up to 100 people. So I was like, man, I can't sway 100 people. And even though I might know 100 people, I don't know if they'd all be Black femmes interested in talking about mental health. So I didn't even have like a kind of like brand figured out. I didn't have a color scheme figured out or anything. The first picture you see in that corner in the left-hand corner is my old roommate. The second icon is just like a video of my altar, and the third one is like a quote that I found somewhere. So I was just kind of putting everything together, really didn't know what was going on. And then now, still a smaller zine, but I'm very happy to even get to like 1,200 people. I'm somebody who is not necessarily like, I got a little clout, but I'm not dripping in it per se. My Instagram that I've had since I was in high school, I have like 800 followers. I just cleared 800 maybe the last year or 2. So I never thought that the magazine could get bigger than that, because I was like, okay, well, these are 800 people. These people actually know me. They might want to see my face. They might want to see how I'm doing. This magazine is specifically just for conversation and for reading and writing and things like that. So I didn't think that would happen. And yeah, I started getting together. I have a couple highlights. I have to go back in and actually make some more and reformat these. I have a logo now. I have kind of like a color scheme going on. And then underneath, like, you see a nice little icon for this workshop in particular. And then a whole bunch of stuff, just advertising, like stickers, the print issues, and submissions and whatnot. So I would say the first thing for the Lazy Girls Guide to Zines, my apologies, it would be figuring out your idea, which obviously seems like the first step. So what are you passionate about? And I feel like that's a very simple sounding question, but generally I feel like we're not told to follow our passions, or that, you can follow your passion to a degree. So for instance, if somebody asked you what you would really want to do in the world, it's shaped by what society kind of tells you you might want to do, or maybe how people perceive you, or maybe how you perceive yourself. Really hard to get into like what you actually find interesting, and a lot of times we kind of have to peel back layers to get into that. So that's actually probably the question that takes way longer to answer than the other one. But I'll say, do you have a niche? Do you have something that you feel like is particularly exciting, or something that people aren't generally talking about? Even if you don't have a niche per se, I still would say do it. If you just wanted to do a regular literary mag, do it. If you do a really good job, people are still going to flock to it, but it is probably good to find something that makes you a bit different than the rest. Also really important, who's your audience. So again, for me, it was really, really important that Black femme people were my audience. But for other people, it's not as important for it to be that particular. Maybe your audience is just generally Gen Z, millennials. Maybe it is people who live within a certain country. Maybe it is people that go, I don't know, to your school or something like that. It could be anybody. And then for zines in particular, do you want to do digital or print or both? Initially, I got into digital because it was the cheapest option and because it's the easiest to navigate. If you mess up a digital issue, you could just go back in and fix it. Whereas in print, you just messed it up and now all those issues are wrong. But I do think, you don't necessarily have to, even if you decide, I do want to get into print, that's something that you can take your time with. You don't need to jump in initially and just, okay, let me look up all the printing companies and look up all this design software to kind of get this started. You can if you want to, but you also don't have to. I think pacing is really important, which brings me to my next point. Please, 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 please pace yourself. Again, I have a mental health zine, so I feel like I'm really big on self-care and not burning out and really taking care of yourself. And I feel like with passion projects, which are usually what zines are at first, it's really easy to kind of get wrapped up in that. But you want to take baby steps and make small obtainable goals. So for myself, I think when I started it in January of last year, I said by the end of the year, I want 500 followers on the magazine, which seemed doable. And even if I had missed it by like 100 or so, I'd still be like, okay, this is still better than like the 17 that I started out with initially. Maybe your goal is, I want to put out my first issue within 2 months. That's very reasonable. Figure out a timeline that works for you. I think that's really, really important. When I first started, I was like, okay, I'm going to put out a new zine every month and it's going to be great. I'm going to get all these submissions and stuff like that. And I did some submissions, but I don't know if I would get enough to consistently put out a monthly issue. And then the submissions honestly were secondary to the fact that I would have to now format a new issue every month, think of a new theme every month, kind of doing all of that. And I still work. So I was like, I don't want to end up doing too much to the point that I just kind of throw this off and I say, whatever, I have more important stuff to do, whatever. So I would also say another good thing about small obtainable goals is that it takes the pressure off of you. So I'm somebody who, it's really difficult for me to think in small steps. So I'd rather just think of like, what's my overall end goal, right? And it's very difficult to do that because if my end goal is like, I want 5,000 followers and I want 12 issues and I want them all in print and I want to sell 500 copies of each of the issues. These are all great goals and these are great long-term goals if that's what you want to do. But for myself personally, if I made those my goals and I didn't have smaller ones that kind of led up to that, I would just be miserable every day that I didn't have the 5K followers. I would sell even if I sold like 200 issues of the zine, I'd be like, that's not enough. I was supposed to do this. If I didn't put out 12 zines, I'd be really upset with myself. So slow and steady wins the race. What's that quote? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Definitely pace yourself, take time to rest. And again, this is your thing. Like, even though you feel like you're on a timetable, it's really up to you. It's your zine. And if you want to take 6 months off, do take 6 months off. It's up to you. So the next thing I'll say is just prepare for the learning curve. Again, this kind of goes with pacing yourself. There were so many things that I, in retrospect, had to learn to do this, and I didn't know. Not even did I not know how to do them initially, I truly, truly, truly did not even know these things existed or that this would at all intersect with my life whatsoever. So definitely prepare for that. So like I have like Canva here, Photoshop that I'm still learning actually, InDesign, Google Analytics, Wix. It doesn't have to be Wix, but these are some of the examples of some of the things that I had to learn that no one told me I would have to learn, and that even though there are kind of like, definitely utilize YouTube. That makes it way easier. I'm a visual learner, so that helped me a lot. I would just say don't get too frustrated when looking at all of these things. If somebody would have told me initially when I did this, like, yeah, you're gonna have to get the Adobe package and you're gonna have to get first of all, make your website and then get Google Analytics and then kind of figure out where is the traffic coming from? How can you increase traffic? And reaching out to people to publish the zine, trying to figure out marketing and things like that, I would have dropped the zine and like immediately. Honestly, it would have been too much for me. Again, I am a lazy girl, and this is the lazy girl's guide. So I would just say definitely again, take your time with this. And honestly, it helped me a lot to just kind of pick what you need to learn and just go from there. So again, talking about small obtainable goals, one of my goals when I first started was just make the website. So to do that, I just had to learn Wix. That was it. I just had to commit myself to that, kind of figure out how to do it, figure out how to format the magazine, and then that was it. That was the first thing I had to learn. Then to make posts and stuff like that, I had to get into Canva, and then so on and so forth. Eventually, Google Analytics just to figure out what's going on in the website. Wix also has an analytics page, but it's not quite as thorough. When I started getting into printing, then I had to learn InDesign, and now I want to learn Photoshop for that same reason. And then learning how to publish just in general, all the rules they have, like about the margins. I think I have to keep it like a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch up, and inside of the page just to make sure everything's printed. Learning about the different kind of colors that you need to print. I think it's RYM and I'm making up letters at this point, but there's different like scales that you can use basically to make colors. And if you use one that the printing company does not use, it can skew your colors and it messes everything up. And you won't realize it until you get your batch of issues, or if you're a better person than me, get your proof first, and then you can fix it before the batch is messed up. But yeah, just be prepared to learn things and just take it step by step. You don't have to learn all these things at the same time. You don't have to be great at all these things. Again, that's the great part about a zine. It's supposed to be kind of do it yourself, kind of rugged, edgy. Embrace that. Don't get overwhelmed. One thing at a time. Baby steps. Baby steps. So another thing that I thought was just really important to mention was mistakes. I cannot stress how many mistakes I have made from top to bottom, from the beginning till now. Be ready to make mistakes. Since I didn't really know anyone who had a zine, I didn't even know, first of all, what I would be doing, and second of all, the many ways in which I could and did mess it up. So I would say mistakes are unavoidable. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to make mistakes. And even if you do know what you're doing, you're going to make mistakes. Just calculate that into your planning. So an example of that would be I wanted to, I think, get an issue out really fast. It was like the first print issue, and everything was kind of lining up, and like these opportunities were coming in to actually print it. So I just wanted it to be like immediate. And I learned InDesign in like 36 hours, and then just threw this issue together. And then once I had already sent it to be print, I realized, well, one, my colors were off. Like I talked about before, my colors were shifting. I realized my margins were too small. Like things were about to get cut off. I realized I did not proofread like I needed to because I was just trying to put everything together. I realized I did some mistypings. There was like just random numbers in some places. It was just a mess. And I hadn't anticipated that. I was just like, okay, this is gonna work. Like this should be cute. I'll just put it there. They'll give me a couple zines. People buy them maybe. So I had to go back in and had I not rushed it, had I actually, gave myself a couple of days to look through this, calculated that into the timing, or had I not gotten like a next day order for the zines, and maybe I could have sent the printer once I realized I had these issues and fixed it beforehand. So again, just kind of calculate that into your planning. If you think something's going to take you 2 or 3 days, just do it in 3 or 4, 4 or 5 days. It makes everything mad easier. But also, I'll just say, embrace your mistakes. Mistakes are awesome. If you can only do mistakes or make mistakes when you're doing something. Like, you don't make a mistake when you just sit at home because you can't really do that wrong. So if you're making mistakes, you're learning, you're definitely bettering yourself. And then you know for sure not to do it again next time. So whole learning process, really don't beat yourself up about it too. That can be really hard. A lot of people kind of don't realize what goes behind the scenes for making these things. So maybe they might just see the product and think oh, well, I didn't like this picture you used, or oh, these colors are kind of off, or something like that. Okay, well, you don't like the pictures and the colors are off. It is what it is. The mistakes have been made. I'll do it better next time. But at the end of the day, I'm out here trying. Anyone who's out here trying, you can't get mad at it, you know? So I would say something else that's really, 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 really important, and I truly cannot stress this enough, is to ask for help. So for myself personally, I am like basically like the only person that does the behind the scenes for Mental Realness Mag. So anything that happens kind of falls back on me. I don't have like a team per se. So sometimes it's kind of easy to get in your head and think like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta, I got this timeline, I gotta learn this, I gotta print this, I gotta write this, I gotta edit this. And even if you're doing it by yourself, you don't have to do everything by yourself. Definitely lean on a support system. So again, my friend that I had posted in my original like conception of the magazine's Instagram, she helped me so much. I literally cannot stress it at all. She made the logo. She taught me Canva. She would proofread for me. She went to school for marketing and advertisement. So she would look at my stuff and be like, okay, good job, but fix all of this. And I needed that. Like, had I not even had her, I don't know truly if I would even be able to kind of do this. I might have threw this away earlier. She kind of really guided me through this, even as somebody who didn't have zine experience. So people who don't necessarily have the background that you think they should to help you can definitely still be a help. Like even my mom, she'll proofread my stuff now. I'll give her a copy of the zine and just be like, before I send it to the print, like, is it fine? Do you think this looks good? And she'll tell me if I misspell a word. She's a Scrabble champ, so I really trust her with that. And then just in general, yeah, find a friend or friends who are willing to help. Again, my friend, I have even just in general, when I first started the magazine and even until now, I will hit up my friends religiously and be like, hey, like, do you want to submit? I need like 2 more submissions to make the magazine as long as I want to make it. Can you help me out? Can you write this in a day? Can I use your old writings? Can I do da-da-da-da-da? And they're always willing to help for the most part. And even if they're not, well, you're planning on doing it by yourself anyway. You might as well have someone help you. And it also just takes the workload off. Like you can do, you can get a million things done if you want to, but maybe if you only had to get like 999,000 things done instead, might be a little bit more helpful. And one thing I'll put as a tip, again, I haven't taken this advice, but I'm trying to, and I'm working towards doing this, is building a team. Definitely suggest doing that from the onset, because if you start doing it once you're already kind of far along, it's just harder to divvy out the responsibilities. And now I feel like a protective mom. I'm like, no, I don't want anyone to know my email. I don't want anybody to do the Twitter. I do need someone to do the Twitter, but stuff like that. It would be easier if you, from the onset, were like, I kind of just need someone to do advertising for me, or I need someone to be in charge of editing. I need someone to be in charge of just whatever the finances, something like that. Kind of get that planned out beforehand. That might help. But again, if this is something even that you started yourself and you didn't have a team from the onset, you can still definitely incorporate it down the line. But even if you don't want a team, again, big thing, just ask for help. Very, very important. And then I included funding in here. So I started the digital publication initially because I had no funding except the money that was in my bank account. So I didn't want to do print issues again because no one knew who I was and no one was going to get me. So I would just have 50 copies of a magazine that had like 4 submissions, and it would be cool to have, but I personally don't need 50 copies of that. So if you want to get into it without really using a lot of money, you definitely can be self-funded. All I was paying for initially was like, I think $13 for Wix to have the website monthly, and then like $12 a year for Google. So I don't pay for Netflix, but that's about a Netflix cost. I get my Netflix from someone else. So I figured even out, I put $13 here. I would have paid $13 a month for anything else. So this is definitely something that's worth it for me. But once you kind of get, so 2 things. It can either be like once you kind of have done that and kind of want to build further, or it's also a good idea from the jump to kind of be like, this is my idea, this is my plan. Asking the community for funding. You could do it either way, from the beginning or at the end, really. There's a variety of ways to do that. So I personally use GoFundMe, I think. They take away a percentage of the money, but it's a very negligible percentage. You can use Cash App. I use Cash App too. Sometimes people don't want to log into GoFundMe and put their card information and all of that, their email and whatnot, but people will usually Cash App you like $5. It's just a number and a send button. You can use PayPal, same thing there. The other thing I have not used yet, I'm very interested about Patreon. I do want to look more into that. That's more of like a monthly kind of subscription thing, I believe. So that also is a good idea because it's cool to get your initial lump sum of money, but if you're not self-sustaining, you're going to need more money eventually. Started very similar to GoFundMe, and Indiegogo is as well. So maybe just kind of get an idea of how much money you need from the beginning, even if you don't know how much you need, just kind of do a ballpark. I didn't know how much I need. I was just like, well, if I can raise 1K, that's enough for me to start paying people and for me to, after like a year and a half of not having money, kind of not have to pay for all these expenses out of pocket, because eventually Canva, Wix, Adobe InDesign, all that stuff starts to add up. So at that point, it's no longer a Netflix subscription, and you kind of might want a little bit more funding, but there's definitely a variety of ways to do that. You can also do like, anything. You could sell stuff, you could sell merch, stickers, things like that. Just get creative with it. But if you find just a couple of like-minded individuals who like what you're doing and believe in you and want to support you, you could at least get some funding. All you need is some to start off with, and then you can take it from there. And my last point, which I was trying to phrase it in a way that didn't seem negative because I didn't want it to come off that way, but be ready to fail. But again, in parentheses, to bring it back, but that doesn't mean that you will fail. What I mean by this basically is like publishing is a dying industry. It is. Digitally is kind of a different story, but in terms of print, like there are tons of well-established magazines and newspapers and things that are going out of business. It's just because of the way of technology. Industries come up, industries die. Unfortunately, this is just one of the ones that's kind of on its way out. But all of that being said, it doesn't mean that you're going to fail, but it should kind of drive you in a particular way. So do everything like you might not get the chance to do it again. You really kind of just want to push forward, like, next month might be the last month for me to put out a zine, or after I run out of the money that I, initially fundraised, I might not be able to put out another issue, or maybe you get a job offer or something like that and you got to put the zine down for a second, or whatever it is. Do everything like you might not get the chance to do it again. By the time that you're kind of done or a little bit comfortable in what you're doing, you should be able to think, even if, and this is the worst case scenario, but even if I wasn't able to do anything else starting today, I am happy with what I put out. And that's personally the mantra I live by, and that's something that kind of pushes me out of my laziness a lot of the time, because I can't put it off to the next day because I don't know if the next day is there for something like this. So I don't work myself to death, obviously. Again, self-care, pacing yourself, things like that. But I do kind of push myself more than I would if I felt like this was a surefire thing. So definitely be proud of what you put out. I'm very proud of what I put out, small, but if I had to stop tomorrow or something came up where I couldn't do this any longer, I still put out digital issues. People have read, people have submitted. I got to talk to people, meet really cool people, like Izzy, for example, and tons of people who I was able to like meet and network with through the magazine. I definitely don't regret any of that. And even again, if it fails tomorrow, I would still be happy and I would still be very proud of myself, and I would like to think that I made it. So what would you want to accomplish if this was your last day? Did you make an impact? So did you, depending on what you initially set your goal out to be when you start this zine or this passion project, maybe you thought about something you might get done. So maybe with this zine, I'll be able to give, show off a lot of young writers and things like that. Or maybe you wanted to talk to a particular marginalized group. Maybe you wanted to raise money. Maybe that was why you did the zine, was just to raise money for a cause or something like that. But did you make an impact? It doesn't need to be financial, even tangible. If one person reads it and was like, yeah, I love this, I felt heard, etc., then that's the impact right there. Did you uplift otherwise unheard voices? I think this is really important, especially in terms of zines. Writing in general, I feel like, is an industry that's kind of hard to get into because they want a lot of experience and they underpay people and they don't want to hear from certain people. And if you have a certain way of writing that might be quirky or something like that, especially in terms of creative writing or poetry and things like that, you might not get published in some of these more like bigger name institutions. So I think as a zine creator, it's really important to hear from people that you don't usually hear from, because those are the coolest people. I want to hear from him. I don't want to hear from Kim Kardashian. I've heard from her. I don't want to hear from whomever else that I can think of off the top of my head. I've heard from them. I want to hear from the girl that lives down the block. I'm sure she has something going on, or maybe just someone I haven't met in another country, someone who's still in school, someone who's kind of young and doesn't know what they're doing, or someone who this is the first time they ever wrote. I want to hear from that person. So if you can uplift those voices, that's definitely something I feel like you should hold as an accomplishment. Did you make a difference? Very similar to the impact question, but yeah, did you make a difference? Do you feel like you made someone's day brighter? Did it make your day brighter? That's also valid. Doesn't need to be for other people. It could just be for you, or for you and your friends, or for you and your friends and family, however you're feeling. So did you make a difference? And then the last and most important question of them all, did you have fun? That's the most important part. Is really, again, it's not for everybody else. It can be. And again, like for my magazine, I'm doing it because I would like to connect with everybody else. And yes, it is for everybody else, but at the same time, it is also for me. And if I wasn't enjoying what I was doing and I wasn't having fun, even in the moments where I'm not having fun, if I wasn't generally enjoying myself and creating joy, I probably would not be doing this. So if you had fun, if you feel like you helped people, if you feel like you made a difference, if you feel like you got to hear from some people you don't usually hear from, or got to amplify their voices, then you're doing the best that you can. This is all that you can accomplish, even if it doesn't work out. That's it. Everything's not permanent. Things are temporary, and that's beautiful. Life is fleeting. We can't hold on to everything. So even if this does work out and this is something you do for the rest of your life, beautiful. All these questions still remain. And if it doesn't work out and it's something you do for 3 months and then you figure out it's not for me, all these questions still remain. So that's basically my gist for this. Hope it didn't sound negative because I was worried about the title for that. So that's basically it. Thanks for coming, guys. And as a shameless self-plug, I do have submissions open for our last issue of the year. It's a very real Christmas. It's about mental health in the holidays. So if you're a Black femme writer or visual artist or you know one, please, please, please send them my way. I pay for submissions now, so I would definitely love to read and accept all of these great, beautiful things. And that is my presentation, guys. So thank you. I hope I wasn't talking too fast. Sometimes I do that when I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm hoping that it all worked out. So you see, I do not know how to
Yay, hello, I'm back. Well done. Your presentation was lovely. It was really good and they were useful. And I think you run through a lot of well, yeah, you basically covered everything, to be honest. Everything that I do when you put up you know, the things you had to learn, every single one, I was like, yeah, Wix. Goodness. Technologically, I mean, it's quite easy. I'm saying that as if like it's really hard, but for the non-technologically skilled, it took me a hot second to get around building a website.
Same, absolutely same.
No, but it was a really great presentation and really informative. And I think, yeah, you literally covered pretty much everything. I think it's very important to accept the mistakes and accept the kind of, you know, I like that you talked about that as well, because everyone is learning on their job. You know, everyone is kind of making mistakes, especially in the early stages. And as you said about putting out your first print and having all those problems, I was kind of the same. I got inspired. I actually didn't have any problems by the time I went to print, but I got inspired to make a print because I don't usually do print at about 11:30 p.m. and I was like,
oh, wow.
I was like, right, InDesign, yeah, let me download. And then I was like, right, and then I was up till about 3, just like, what? And I managed to kind of work it out. But you know, everyone has to start from somewhere, and I think there's like a big, you know, people think there's like this massive pretense and everyone kind of knows what they're doing, but most people will be sitting there at some point like, you know, just
that exact same thing.
Work out how to make a text box, you know what I mean? So it's like, so thank you, it was great. I think you actually have a few questions, or there's one in the Q&A and then there's 2 in the chat. Let me have a look and see. So
okay. Oh, very cool. I also have never used this feature of Zoom. I haven't been using Zoom, so this is very cool to see.
These are the fancy features.
Yes, this is I feel like I'm in the 21st century, though we really are, but this is awesome. Yeah, so let me see for this question. So zines are amazing, but hard work to run. Mental health wise, how do you preserve yourself? I struggle to balance personal life / zine life. Honestly, I might be like the wrong person to ask about this, just because I will whenever I'm stressed by something, I'll drop it for a little bit. So like, again, I started this in January 2019, but like, I think starting from in May of 2019 until like January or February of this year, like I didn't do anything for the zine. I wasn't doing more issues really. I was like just posting on the Instagram every now and then. You just got to put yourself first, you know, even if you think you're providing something that might be useful for other people, like you definitely just have to, again, preserve yourself, like you say. So I will drop it for a little bit. Now I'm better with pacing, which is why I put that first thing there. So like, instead of me feeling like I have to put out an issue every month or every 6 weeks, I'm definitely cool with putting out 2 zines a year, 3 zines a year, if that's how I'm feeling. Because again, it's no point, especially for a mental health magazine. I can't put out a mental health magazine at the detriment to my own mental health and be like, come on, guys, look at this. This is great. Come on. So I hope that answers the question. Definitely drop it if it's something, or not drop it fully, but, you know, take a break if you need to. You're on your own timeline. You're not on anyone else's realistically. So take a break, pause. If it's something you're passionate about and you really like, sometimes it is kind of cathartic even to work on the zine or just like talk to people through the Instagram and stuff like that. I find that really helpful to my mental health actually, but if it gets too much, I just turn that app off and continue with my day.
Yeah, I'm not trying to anyone who kind of has the answer to that question. I am so chaotic, so I could probably ask the same question, as in like I have no idea how to balance anything and how to make it work, especially if you know you've got other priorities or whatever, which I feel like most people do. I think it's kind of hard to do a zine full time. I wish, but I don't, I think it's basically impossible. So I think it's just important to try and put yourself, look after yourself and put yourself first. It's something that's probably my worst point. So that sounds like rich coming from me, because I'm like, I would never put myself first. I'd be like drowning and lift it up like this. Like, you know, I'd be like, no, go on. Like, so I'm like, put yourself first, but I would never do that myself. But that's probably the root of all my problems, and it's quite obviously the root of all my problems, you know. So and I think that even though, as I said, I would never do that, I actually think it does actually cause me more problems. So I would very much back the advice that if you can, it will probably even be more beneficial to the work you create in the end. Because if you're not burnt out and you've got the time and you're looking after yourself, you're just going to be better, you know, and that's kind of it. So I think that although, you know, you want to work fast and you want to like get as much done and you want to be the best you can be, sometimes you'll actually make yourself worse by stretching yourself like that.
Exactly. And I also feel like the advice of just like putting yourself first, way easier said than done, because once you're actually in it, it's so much harder.
That's what I'm saying. If there was anyone I knew on this call, they'd be like, what? Like, it's actually my worst point, but it's a true one. It's hard to do, especially if you love what you do or you're passionate about, you know, your zine and you want to give it all your love and attention. But sometimes you need to balance everything.
Exactly. Balance. Life is all about balance.
Exactly. I'm trying to find it.
Same here.
Yeah, exactly. Does anyone have any questions? Any other questions? Thank you for that one. Does anyone have any other questions? I think you've got some compliments in the chat. 2 people have said that was so good.
Thank you so much. I was so nervous when I was putting my PowerPoint together. I was like, I haven't put one together since it felt like middle school. I was like, do I put pictures? Do I have to use should I use animations? What am I doing?
No, it was a strong PowerPoint. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a really useful useful workshop. And I mean, you're actually the last of all our workshops.
That's a celebration in and of itself.
Yeah, you're the big finale, which is exciting.
I love it.
I know. But I think
thank you so much for even like having me or inviting me. I thought this was so cool. It's just cool to like even be a part of this. And honestly, like it was so cool to even meet you and like learn more about your zine and like even other like zine creators through looking at your page and seeing the other people who were presenting. This has been really beautiful.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for deciding to be part. As I said, it was super useful and I mean, great to listen to. And you're very, not to give you too many compliments, but you're very good at it. And the zine is great. And I thought it was perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I hope people are submitting to your new issue.
I hope so too. I really hope so too. Please submit. Please tell your friends and family. I have money for them.
Yeah, exactly. You destinations as well, which is very rare. So I think people will hopefully jump on a bit of paid work. As I said, it's a bit rare. It's a bit rare in the zine industry. So
Right, exactly.
well, thank you so
Yes.
much. If no one has any other questions, then I guess we'll end there.
Well, thank you guys for coming too. Thank you, everyone. I'm feeling really blessed and really happy and really appreciative. So I hope that everyone else feels the same. I hope you enjoy your Friday. You don't have to drink wine. Not everyone's into that, but please do. If you are, I'm feeling really good and really zened out, really chill. So I want everyone else to feel that way.
Well, thank you so much. You are the host of the meeting, so you actually have to end it. You have all the power. You have all the power in your hands now.
Right. I should hold you guys hostage. Now we're just talking all day.
Yeah. I was gonna say now we're all like.
Okay, let me end it. Thank you guys again.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That was amazing. Thank you.
No problem. Enjoy your day.